YouTube, on Twitch. Welcome to another episode of my Cell to Singularity Let's Play series. This is Northstar. I hope you are well, taking care of each other and being kind to yourselves. It's been a little bit of a break since the last I did in here. As you can see, 2 days. I've been incredibly stressed over my violent psychopathic roommate who has become increasingly dangerous and a threat to my safety, and I have been trying to do what I can to set things up to probably have to do another restraining order on him. There was one on him before, and apparently he didn't get the message that he cannot behave this way. He cannot go about threatening to kill me or seriously harm me. And as well, sometimes excessively slow to act as the legal system can be about such things. With enough documentation, enough police reports, eventually he will have no choice but to stop or be removed from his current housing situation. Share an apartment with me. I didn't pick the roommate. This was just landlord listed rooms. Not technically boarding house, though he kept trying to call it that or no, it's one of the other roommates did. This guy didn't, because I didn't even talk to him. Why did my brain? Yeah, some other guys describe it the way. But it is a situation where there were empty rooms, so. Anyways, disabled following COVID. I have very tight financial situation unless I can get lucky and my YouTube or Twitch can take off. Unable to work normal jobs. This is the, I guess, biggest thing I can do is YouTube, Twitch. As sad as that is, from being on the verge of entering an MD program. I was already technically in a medical school, but entering an MD program in a medical school and becoming a surgeon, ultimately, if I could get through residency, which I'm sure I could get through the MD program, probably residency. Probably wouldn't be like a previous roommate I had who failed the USMLE, who left because this violent roommate was threatening him, and he had more options than I do. Not as financially desperate. He's a teacher. Anyways, he just didn't make much money, so it's not surprising he tried to save money here, but he was not going to deal with threats to his safety, especially when the landlord didn't believe him about this guy. The landlord does believe me because I'm the second person to come forward to him, and actually the third person this guy's threatened. There was one other roommate who just didn't come forward, ignored the guy, avoided the guy, and managed to fly under the radar because he refocused his threats of violence on me. Otherwise, he'd probably be threatening that guy the same way. But, yeah, anyways, our system doesn't take good care of people with disabilities and forces them into very desperate situations because, well, for one, there isn't a blue book entry for long COVID, so the government is fighting my disability case. But even if it wasn't, the amount of money you can get with SSI is pathetically small, and the government cheating me out of SSDI through all sorts of rules that are completely unfair and designed to be unfair. For instance, if you work 2 jobs at once, you can only get the same number of work credits as if you work 1 job. If you have period unemployment, you won't get work credits for that year. So if you have employment that's irregular, where you work a ton of hours, then there's a gap in employment, then a ton of hours again. You may work just as many hours as someone who's able to manage more secure employment, but you won't get as many work credits. Hi, Aries Stream. I hope you're enjoying the let's play here. This clicker. It's not the most exciting game, but I actually will be switching over to some Hearthstone and maybe a Lord of the Rings Online. stream relatively soon. There'll be a quick break because there's a delay. If I try to connect things instantaneously, I cannot connect to Twitch errors, so I have to wait like a minute between streams. But I really should figure out how I can create like a please stand by trailer for that. I'm not the most technically sophisticated with computers. In fact, I couldn't even, when I was healthy, for some of my research that was in a bioinformatics lab, I was tasked with learning programming because the job I'd actually been brought in for, there were problems with contamination. I was supposed to be the wet lab guy. Instead, I ended up getting stuck trying to learn programming, and I couldn't do it. Computers are not my friend. So I don't know quite how to create one of those trailers, and I'm not visually artistic. I couldn't do the graphic design for it. I do have an artistic side to me, but it's with language. I can write poetry. I've tried my hands at short stories as a kid, and it was terrible. Really, I should probably revisit them now. But with my long COVID focus issues, I doubt I could keep all the plot lines together unless I wrote really simple short stories, like Asimov used to do when he first got started. Some of them were pretty complicated. Some of them were very simple, but he's an incredibly talented writer. People don't read as much as they used to. Maybe I could have made it in the past when there was a larger audience for reading, but I doubt I could make it as a writer. But yeah, my talent is I could never do portraits or sculpture or graphic design. I'm a verbal artistic. Words have always been my medium. And that's actually not very impaired by my long COVID. I wrote some poetry, and it wasn't much worse than the stuff I could write when I was healthy. Unfortunately, if you're lucky, the best you can get with poetry is you submit to there's a couple publishers who publish compilations of poetry. If they like it, they'll throw your poems in and give you a couple $100. That's it. You're not going to be able to survive off writing poetry in this day and age. All the poets who have been published in recent years all had other jobs. Or almost all of them. It's just not a viable career. So I'm trying YouTube and Twitch. Some people really make it. It's hard to get started, but you get exponential growth. My YouTube channel, I estimate I'll be making substantial amounts of money in 5 years, though. I think, my subscriber numbers have mostly been growing at about 10% a month. I calculated out when I would get to, I think I decided 10,000 subs, at which point I might be making decent money. I figured not a lot of money, but maybe enough to keep a roof over my head if I also have a Patreon. And can get some help from family and keep appealing to Social Security, which there's some resources that are also available beyond, do that, and there's some other resources through churches and stuff. It's not enough to live on, but if I could, I might be able to put together enough to survive by that point. But I only have enough savings for 2 years, so I've got a 3-year gap. And while I've put some pressure on some extended family can you help me just a little? I really only need to make up. I think I calculated out, and based on my very frugal living expenses, I think $15,000 gap to survive, to where I might be able to. Actually, less than that, because I should start earning money before then. But not much less, because it's exponential growth. It's not linear growth, so it's not like 7,500 if it was linear. Anyways, yeah, I can do really simple math, like division by 2 is literally what I just did. But I actually have trouble with more advanced mathematics in my long COVID. I used to be extremely mathematically talented, although geometry was my thing. I actually was able to. There was this interesting episode, if you will call it, when I was in high school, and I forget if it was trigonometry or calculus, and there was a test, and teacher was trying to mark it wrong because they didn't use the method they taught. But I had a parent who was an engineer, and they're like, this is right, and the teacher's like, well, it's not what we taught him. And I invented on my own, or rediscovered on my own, because no one taught me, a shortcut that they teach in college and grad school. That was, I'd also figured out some shortcuts to do the mathematics geometrically, to apply geometry principles and things that this is an alternate way to do certain sorts of problems. I couldn't really describe anymore because I've forgotten much of what I knew. I haven't been using math at that level since, but we did use statistics and some very basic calculus in research, and I was very good at that. Once I got a proper statistics training, which it's hard to find good stats classes. There's a lot of teachers who don't really know their stuff, or they just go through the motions, even in college. Turns out biostatistics classes are where you get people who really know what they're doing. Just basic statistics, no. Biostatistics classes, which are basically the same material, but taught by much more competent professors, it turns out. Anyways, how long was this? 10-minute stream? So I'm getting a bit of the paper money generator here. Let's see. I might be able to get stock market if I pull the lever a bunch on paper money. Maybe. Probably not. I probably need deposit lending first, actually. And for that, I may need to reset the main simulation soon. If you want to run a tiny bit, there's like a time compressor upgrade. So the simulation's been running for more than 2 days. Should be earning upgrade points, prestige currency much, much faster than if I had the same number of generators and upgrades and it was a new simulation. So yeah, I'll wait. I'll do the nanobots in 5 minutes or whatever. This 5 minutes exactly now. That'll be a minute. Then I'll probably reset the main simulation a few times. Yeah, clearly what I need is deposit lending. Although, grab one more paper money first before saving up for that. Get to 48 paper money. Nice, whatever number. After all, deposit lending is mostly about getting more coins so I can get even more paper money generators. Getting some of them now while they're cheaper. So they just go up in cost. These clicker games, each level of a generator, like, commodity currency, each coin is more expensive than the last one. So, that should affect your strategy. Even now, I can intuitively understand some of what the mathematics look like in my head, but I can't put them into paper anymore because my mathematical abilities are impaired, and I've always been very intuitive with mathematics, and that's a problem. Like, I couldn't do a job that required math because I wouldn't be able to describe, even if I could get the right answers to stuff. And a lot of times, it's documentation that's as important as the math. And a lot of times, on a day where my long COVID is bad, I wouldn't be able to do the math properly either. Today's a better day. I've been starting to rebound from a period of about 6-7 weeks where the long COVID is really bad. That's typical with long COVID, by the way. You get bad weeks and good weeks. It's also frustrating because in a lot of the country, in a lot of the US, and a lot of the world, especially in the third world, people pretend long COVID isn't real and they try and claim it's a psychiatric illness, which is absolutely not. In fact, the evidence shows that it's likely an autoimmune disease, similar to, say, lupus or rheumatoid fever. That's where usually, certain type of staphylococcus infection, like the same thing causes strep throat, gets in the bloodstream, antibodies against it end up cross-targeting a molecule that's found in the heart and the major arteries, and that causes the body's immune system to attack your own heart and kill people. That's an example of an autoimmune disease that some people get every year just from, staph infections. There's also viruses that cause cancer. Most of them cause no other symptoms. So they go around, they're silent infections. This is why you should always wash your hands. Maybe wear a mask more often. Why it's not good that public transit is always overcrowded. We should have fewer people per car in subways, and buses should have more frequent routes. There's fewer people because people are just passing around these viruses, and some of them cause cancer. They cause mutations that lead to contribute to cancer. The way cancer works is it's usually not just one mutation. because there's tumor suppressor genes as well as oncogenes that need to be mutated. Tumor suppressor genes prevent cancer, so you need them to be deactivated, and oncogenes, when they're activated, they cause cancer. So it's what's known as a multi-hit model. You need to usually have like 8 mutations sometimes. It depends on the cell type. And this also plays into the whole cancer stem cell theory, because most cells in the body don't live very long. So unless the cells become what's known as immortalized, where they stop dying and stop, most cells, the reason, I shouldn't say they stop dying because they still die, but most cells lose their ability to reproduce after a few divisions. So the cell line either has to become immortalized and not lose that ability to reproduce, or it has to be mutations in the stem cell population, stem and progenitor cells, which are with you for life usually. So cancer stem cell theory says that most cancers are actually mutations to the stem cells, such as the Crypt cells in the intestine. That's a well-known example. Or actually, there's a type of stem cell in your skin. It's actually found at the base of hair follicles. Which is why I would suspect there's some increased amount of skin aging if you like wax all the hair follicles out. They're really aggressive. There's different types of waxing. I don't know. I don't have any evidence, but since that would be pull out the base of the hair follicle, which is where the stem cells that are responsible for healing wounds and regenerating the skin. There's also some, if I remember correctly, against the basal lamina, that's a membrane, an extracellular membrane, so it's not a cell membrane, it's a different type, found outside cells. There's also stem cells there, but that population isn't numerous enough and not always long-lived enough, especially if you get injuries like a cut. You need stem cells will actually migrate into the wound from nearby hair follicles. So yeah, maybe removing all the hair on your body might not be the best thing, but this is pure conjecture because I don't think there's been any research onto this one way or another. It's just based on, I was a stem cell biologist before I switched to virus research. So I do know what I'm talking about when I say viruses that cause cancer, the cancer stem cell theory. Cancer was actually my original interest, cancer and regenerative medicine. So trying to repair damage to the body, including stuff like giving people back the ability to walk who lost it, and giving blind people the ability to see again, like repairing all sorts of permanent damage, including maybe even someday helping to repair some of the damage after strokes or heart attacks. I was always fascinated by that line of inquiry, research, and cancer. Because, you know, basically diseases that either, in the case of cancer, limit human lifespans, because even if you could repair other types of damage, most people who die, if they don't die of cancer, they actually have some benign tumors in their body. They're partly along the way to causing cancer. They just haven't gotten there yet. But if they lived, say, another 50 years, they would have developed cancer for sure. Or 30 years or something. So if we want people to live longer than, well, like the biblical 120 years supposed lifespan and limitation, if you want people to live to be like 150, 180, you have to cure cancer. Not an if. You have to. There's no way around it. Short of turning yourself into, I guess, a cyborg, where most cells have been replaced with mechanical stuff that obviously can't cause cancer, or at least can't go cancerous itself. It might actually cause. I wouldn't be surprised if, you know, you get cybernetic implants that cause actual living cells to go cancerous. And even then, you'd still have some live cells, unless everything in your body, unless you turn yourself into a robot, cancer is going to limit your lifespan. So, we need to cure it. And I don't know. We're not going to reach, 300-year-old humans for probably thousands of years, but that day will arrive someday. Maybe not thousands, hundreds of years. And so I was thinking very long term. If we do the research now, we'll reach that point sooner in human history. And there'll be all sorts of side benefits along the way, like giving people who, are paraplegics the ability to control their bodies again through repairing their spinal cord kind of thing, which is what, a lot of the people were talking about why I should research stem cell biology earlier would talk about stuff like that. Because that's some of the low-hanging fruit, some of the earliest things we can cure. But there's much more advanced things we can do with, 200 years of research or whatever. And I mean, that may seem unimaginably a long time, but I'll give you something to put things in perspective. Capitalism, the system, that everyone thinks has been around forever, has only been around 300 years. About 400, 300 years. And most of the world, I think the earliest forms were 600 years old. That didn't really spread. And in fact, it wasn't until the liberal revolutions of the 1840s, throughout most of Europe, 1848 particularly, that it actually really replaced feudalism finally as the dominant economic system worldwide. So a lot can change, and I guess that would be 175 years, 177 years. We think of something as eternal, but it's only been around that long. But I'm actually making the opposite point, aren't I? But I guess, yeah, we should definitely be thinking long term. But in the short term, there's all sorts of things. And right now, we need to be trying to cure long COVID, because there was an early study that keeps getting repeated. Like, people keep quoting it over and over, and they shouldn't. It's actually doing harm, saying there's always 65 million people with long COVID. That's inaccurate. Later studies showed that, one, the number actually grew. So when that study was done, the number was less than it is now, because more people have long COVID, because each COVID reinfection causes more cases. And like each wave of COVID infection each year, there's more people get long COVID. And some people do recover, but some people never recover, and so you just get more and more of that never recover population, i.e. the really severe long COVID numbers in particular are growing the most. And that study was undercounting because there was really poor reporting, in particular out of the third world, but there were also some countries that were capable of accumulating the statistics that were just lying about it, trying to race disease. In particular, India was one of them, and it's the most populous country, or second most populous country in the world. You had, the far right, Modi represents now, in India, who were intentionally trying to race long COVID, and Brazil. This is before Bolsonaro was kicked out. They extremely large countries, huge populations, and they were saying that they had very few cases of long COVID, or denying that they had any. Very short time. They couldn't get away with saying a big fat serious. They say we only have 1,000 cases, and they have like 1 million cases or something. They were lying. The United States has about 14 million cases of long COVID. You can do the math on what Brazil or India would, if there were the same infection rates of COVID, and there aren't, because India's population density means there should actually be more cases of long COVID proportionally, because more people would have been infected with COVID like 6 times. And also the 6th infection more dangerous than the first infection. Each subsequent infection is more dangerous than the last with regards to long COVID. And although you can cut your risk by getting vaccinated, but only by about a third. So yeah, India should have like 40, 50 million people with long COVID. I think they were saying that we had like 100,000. They were just lying. Russia was doing this. A lot of authoritarian regimes were lying about their long COVID numbers. And, Trump has been trying to downplay the numbers in the US. So the real estimate is thought to be, the real true number is thought to be between 130 and 135 million, with some estimates ranging up to 160 million, if you assume that the authoritarian countries are really underreporting their numbers. Because there's a lot of uncertainty how much things are being underreported, and how many people, like in Africa, parts of Africa, there's very little healthcare, are just not getting diagnosed. There are people in their village are taking care of them, or how many of those people aren't alive anymore because their village didn't take care of them, or the city, they lived in the slums. If a homeless child in the slums of a city in Namibia gets long COVID, they're going to die. And yes, children get it too. It's not just adults. It's not just old people, as some people think. I'm not a young adult anymore, but I'm a youngish adult. I think it's safe to say I'm in my 30s, and I have long COVID. And I got it in my early 30s, so yeah. So there's been a real gap in caring for, so it's a question of how many people were unable to survive with this disease and how many people have the disease and it's not being reported, which creates immense uncertainty. Just violent, dangerous roommate just got back. Lovely. He's muttering something, but anyways, so there's an immense. Oh yeah, I was gonna reset the primary simulation here. There's an immense need to do more about long COVID. Ironically, this streaming keeps me safer because I think he knows if he does something while I'm streaming to me, it's impossible to get off the internet. The proof that tried to I don't know, bust down my door and hurt me or something. I do my best to avoid this guy and even avoid antagonizing him. It doesn't matter. I can get up and go to the bathroom in the night as quietly as possible, and he will scream. And he did that today, actually. Screamed and tried to put me in the bathroom for simply going to the bathroom in the night. Alright, idea efficiency. Unified theory for each civilization. Now that, and let's see. Modern mastery. And knowledge booster needs some points, but I also wanted to get the idea speed. Should be able to get up to 100 and get the next level of it soon-ish. After a few more resets. Boom. So get those upgrades locked in, but I'm doing this mainly. Oh yeah, a few more gifts, including some Darwinian cubes, mainly for the nanobots. Not gonna get any more upgrades just from these resets. So I'm gonna need more paper mine generators. I'm gonna need to switch very shortly to paper money thing. I mean, it's slowly accumulating towards 1 to the 8th, but 1.00 to the 8th for stock market. But I'm gonna accelerate that, obviously, by pulling the lever on that very soon. I'll try and get 60 paper money. I know, multiple 10, 5, 6, 12. Human brain tends to be drawn to certain numbers, even though it's just because of the number system we used. If we used a number system that wasn't base 10, for instance, it was base 12 or 20 or 8, we would tend to be drawn to very different numbers. There's nothing special about the numbers except that partly a lot of mathematical shortcuts rely on them, and I don't know. We all, we use base 10 number system, so it's really obvious why multiples of 10 are going to be more appealing to humans. I mean, it didn't have to be the world end up on. There's nothing special about 10 other than the number of fingers you have on your hands normally. I do wonder if this account created very recently, Aries stream, this just may be a scammer. Anyone who's messaged me on Discord and has an account that's less than a month old, less than a week old in fact, is most often a scammer. sad that we live in a world where scamming is most common like that. Yeah, there's not much I can do with this guy. I can stay out of his hair as much as possible, which I've been trying. I take melatonin, trying to get sleep earlier, though it's really, really hard to sleep when you have both insomnia from long COVID, and actually I had insomnia before then, it just got worse with it, and you're afraid for your life. This guy thinks he can scream and shout and threaten me into being asleep whenever he happens to be asleep, which, by the way, changes, because he was, for a while, working for a while he was awake during the night, and it was the daytime where he'd be asleep and annoyed. And then, you know, he's on a more normal, air quote, normal cycle now. It's like... So, and he'll even fall asleep to blaring music and stuff, which disturbs my sleep, and it's like, it doesn't have a light to stand on, but, you know, try falling asleep with that fear on top of two things that are causing insomnia: pre-existing insomnia and long COVID. It's ridiculous. He's only making the problem worse for himself of me having to get up and go to the bath in the middle of the night because he threatens me, and that makes it harder for me to sleep and makes it more likely I'll be up, not less. Especially because I was already making all possible effort to regulate my sleep cycle without him doing these threats. This is not going to be very successful. He also gets annoyed. I have a cough, but even if I go to the bathroom and don't cough, he still gets annoyed just the sound of my, like, washing my hands or flushing the toilet. It's like, dude, I'm not gonna live in fear of you. This is not acceptable behavior. Goes on about show some respect. Show some respect to others. Respect is earned. You do not get it by default, and you definitely don't get it when you have earned disrespect. For violent behavior that makes you an object of scorn, not an object of respect. I don't know. Feel bad for the guy a little bit. He probably got, like, exposed to lead as a kid or something. His brain doesn't work right. That can cause violent, aggressive behavior as an adult. But of course, the U.S. does nothing to get rid of lead paint and lead plumbing. I don't have too much of a bleeding heart, but seriously, I can't fully excuse this. At some point, choice comes into play. Even within the context, you might expect less of some people, but you still have to expect something of them. You know, understanding things like lead exposure as a child that made people want to put up more aggression from, in this case, than from a normal person, but to the level of threatening to kill me, that's way over the top, and that's not going to be excused. He definitely knows better than that. I think he draw himself more than that. Anyways, only about a third of the way to stock market here. That's not good. Oh yeah, let's do another reset to speed this up. Checking the time. There's no actual upgrades available. This is... the amount of metabits accumulated is pathetic. Well, less than I thought. I could probably, like, get as far as UKRX cells and get just a little bit. That if I did this like 100 times, I get one upgrade. Might be worth it. Oops. Especially if I let this run for a tiny bit. Grab a bunch of the upgrades. Boom. Alright, that's as much as I want to of that. This guy rages about smallest noises. Meanwhile, I have upstairs neighbors who are like, literally, I think they set up a gym over my head. They literally go stomping and listening to music and talking on the phone in the middle of the night. It's like, I just put in earplugs. That's what this guy should be doing. Instead of threatening to kill people, he should just put in earplugs. He's such a light sleeper that someone going in the bathroom wakes him up. and he chose the room, because he did have some choices of rooms. He could have picked, could have had one of 3 different rooms based on how things were when I moved in here. That was right next to the bathroom. He's going to choose the room right next to the bathroom. He doesn't get to complain if people wake him up, go in the bathroom. He's that way to sleep, or they're trying to be quiet. You know, you put in earplugs. That's what people have always told me to do when they wake me up through some atrociously loud noises. This guy also makes a ton of noise in the morning, slams doors and such. It's like, my quietly walking in the bathroom wakes you up, but you slam the doors in the morning. Are you serious? Okay. I'm just gonna cut the stream. I'll finish getting to stop market, but it's not that exciting to do that. So I'm gonna cut this here, and then in a second I might do a login to Lord of the Rings Online. I'm gonna pivot to Hearthstone, which I've been doing a lot of, because it's got a large Twitch following. So the hope is that there's enough people there that can actually pick up 1 or 2 real human streamers like this game, which is, I guess, more for YouTube, though it doesn't hurt to stream to Twitch. So YouTube viewers, and maybe anyone's watching this video on Twitch, I wish you all the best. Take care of each other. Be kind to yourselves. And may you always find a guiding star to lead you home. Till next time, it's Northstar. Adieu. And best luck to you all.